Hello, namaskar, and a very warm welcome to all our viewers. My name is Bhumika, and I welcome you all on behalf of the complete Digital India team.
I also, from my own side, and from behalf of National E-Government Division, Ministry of Electronics and IT, welcome the panelists for today. And I'm indeed thankful to Dr. Rohini Srivathsa, National Technology Officer of Microsoft, for helping us curate this special session. And for the benefit of viewers who have been joining us for the first time today, this AI Pe Charcha is a series that we have started to continue the conversations on responsible AI for social empowerment that we started last year as part of the RAISE 2020 summit, which saw a huge participation from across the world, and the entire gamut of issues relating to AI in various domains was discussed with the experts from across the world. So the endeavor has been to try to institutionalize and try to learn from the best practices worldwide, globally, look at state examples, look at examples of applications of artificial intelligence within Government of India, and share ideas and best practices so that we can adopt, and we can replicate the efforts which have been done elsewhere. So we have started this year this series of AI Pe Charcha. This is the third edition of AI Pe Charcha. Last month we had the interactions with the Unique ID Authority of India, wherein they shared how they are using AI for various applications that Unique UID Authority of India is rolling out. So they and Step, they shared their learnings from that. And today we are discussing the applications of AI in the field of smart cities. And as we all know, smart cities, smart mobility is one of the areas in which there's a huge application of data science and use of artificial intelligence for various services that are being offered, whether it's a smart traffic management, whether it's building smart cities, creating smart spaces. So there is multiple applications of AI in the field of smart cities. Already the smart cities mission is adopting some of that. They recently came up with their IDOX framework, which allows data interchange and creation of a platform which can be leveraged by multiple cities. So not only smart cities, but even the Amrut cities, which are cities smaller than 10 million, though those cities also can adopt a similar framework for building services on top of it.
I want to just share a few statistics as to why we are having this important conversation today. Clearly, you laid out the government's focus on smart cities, but I wanted to also bring out the fact that for India, while we are often talking about the country and the need for rural development, which is extremely important, but I think the need to understand urbanization in the country is just as important. In fact, it's the statistics are that by 2030, 70% of the country's GDP will come from the urban India, and urban India will have 40% of the country's population. In fact, the 2/3 of the economic output will and the main recipients of FDI will come from urban India. So I think, and some interesting statistics also say that 17 of the 20 fastest growing cities in the world by 2035 are going to be from India. So these are pretty staggering numbers, and therefore the need for us to pay attention to how the urban development is happening is important. And we are all familiar, and we in fact face it every day, that our cities have grown perhaps not always in a very planned manner. And so we have, unfortunately, the distinction of having some cities with a fairly poor quality of life. In fact, Delhi and Mumbai are ranked pretty low by the Economist Intelligence Unit in terms of just the livability index. So there is much that needs to be done, whether it is in terms of traffic, whether in terms of mobility, and there are tons of problems to be solved. So which is why I requested Rahul, Oran, and Guillaume to be here to talk about how Microsoft is using technologies, including artificial intelligence, to solve some of these challenges at real scales across the world. And so really looking forward to this session. We have a lot of content for all of you. And so hopefully you will, these will generate ideas, and they can take these forward in terms of driving some real transformations in our cities.
On a very interesting session today, and I understand that these are more of a knowledge sharing kind of session. So I would kind of try and make it more as a use cases and scenarios that we can really look at when we look at implementing AI in smart cities. As a part of my current role as a director for Asia industry, I have a privilege of working with many country governments across Asia Pacific and Japan, and supporting them in their smart cities and digital transformation journey across the areas. And these are very interesting areas to see in terms of challenges and problems to solve. So without further ado, I know I have specific time, so I just want to kind of make sure that I'm able to cover all the aspects. We talk about really the complexities, especially from a government standpoint. There are so many expectations from citizens now on citizen services. The big data challenges are never ending, and we all have concerns about data security, privacy, and policy environments. On top of that, I believe the unstructured data typically limits our capabilities of going all out and making sure the data strategy is really not affected. But when we really think about AI from an AI standpoint, I believe what we are trying to do is to amplify human capabilities, specifically around reasoning, understanding, and interacting. And when we really look at amplifying these human capabilities from a government standpoint, I think the 4 areas that we categorically need to really look at is engaging citizens, making sure that all of the insights are available for them, empowering government officials to be able to deliver more personalized and more efficient services, transforming the whole of the government services, and making sure that the processes are optimized. So I think from all of that processes and engagement standpoint, I believe AI could be a good support in solving some of these challenges. When we really look at it from a smart city standpoint, I believe that there are multiple ways. There are horizontal applications, and then there are vertical applications. And each of these applications possesses an enormous amount of data. And as everybody is aware here, that the quality of the data would define how good your AI systems is going to be able to produce outcomes as a part of the initiative. So the quality of the data, having a right robust strategy for the data governance and classification really is a key here in terms of identifying what could be that business use case that we are trying to solve. And when we really talk about business use cases, the scenarios could be really pretty lot. We talk about cities. Cities also consist of some spaces within them, which could be again looked at from a smart standpoint. And within spaces, you will have components like buildings and others, which could be really looked at from a smartness standpoint. So I think the objective should be to identify what's the problem that we are trying to solve, what's our use case, what is it going to impact to, and what are we really linking at. And the multiple ways we can really look at identifying these scenarios is across various aspects of AI around digital assistants, which could basically not just be in information, but also suggest you the next best actions. We can look at modeling and simulation kind of scenarios. We can look at identification of fraud and specifically anomalies and risk prediction kind of scenarios. We can look at training and readiness scenarios and multiple others. I have just listed down a few of the examples that we think that could be very relevant here from a government standpoint and a city standpoint. But if we have to categorize specifically, the top priority use cases could be around public safety, citizen engagements, infrastructure, transportation, and environment. Looking at specific solutions, social media is really big in terms of data again, and a lot of citizens kind of use social media to express their feelings and sentiments about some of the initiatives or developments which are happening on a day-to-day basis. So the AI can be used specifically again to look at how do we capture the sentiment analysis very proactively and ensure that that is addressed by the government organizations when they kind of go back and provide feedback to the citizens on a specific initiative which is upcoming or an issue at hand, and find out really what would be the right challenges and solutions around it. So that's one of the areas definitely to look at from a use case scenario as one of the use cases. Video analytics have really gone to the next notch now. I think with availability of analytical capabilities on the edge, We have great amount of insights available specifically for the video surveillance cameras or any other sensors that we have. Some of the examples, as you can see on the screen on the left, are intersection crossings, specifically identifying high risk spots, collision spots. On the bottom left of the scene, you can see that there is a person who is getting off of the car and dropping a suspicious object and walking away, and that is being identified specifically by the AI system. The center bottom is customs organization, basically identifying specifically movement of cargoes and keeping a track of that, and a fraudulent transaction on your right side. Video analytics really have gone to the next level of advancements and being able to provide many specific benefits as to the government organizations as we go forward. And when we really look at some more cases around this, you can really look at the facial recognition technology, which is going to be really more important as we identifying specific persons of interest and being able to identify how the crowds are being really moving. Are they following the right set of pattern, if there are any offenders around that, and then specifically the traffic densities across common areas and public areas, which has become more and more important from a COVID standpoint. And then when we look at advancements around citizen scenarios, specifically, the language capabilities of digital agents have really again got very enhanced. Now you can actually have a human-like conversation with a chatbot with real-time detection and analytics from a language standpoint. There are multiple languages which get supported as a part of the conversational UI. Real-time analytics in terms of even sentiment and analytics on phone calls specifically could help to determine the quality of citizen engagement and facilitation which has taken place. So I think digital agents specifically not have just become a chatbots anymore, but have really kind of provided a very deeper engagement with a robotic process automation. As simple things that I want to pay my tax as a query to a chatbot can really derive all your earlier payment history, the dues now, and then create a transaction to kickstart that. I think all of these kind of scenarios from a city standpoint could be driven by digital agents. This is really a new area which we see very upcoming in Asia as a region. I know Australia as a country is looking at implementing workplace insights as well, considering most of the work is happening remotely in the country, and people are spending enormous amount of hours beyond their official working hours to make sure that the citizen services are running and up to the mark. So I think this could be one of the tools to identify and facilitate better planning and better quality of work-life balance for employees, and being able to really identify which people are really at the risk of burnouts, or how people are doing well from a collaboration standpoint. How does the organization achieve agility, employee experience, and organizational resilience as we go forward from a remote working standpoint? And this could really be even from a personal focus, well-being, and network and collaboration standpoint to be looked at. This is really something which most of the government organizations across the world are very actively considering. This is another area where I would like to present as an opportunity to consider. Mixed reality, again, a very critical aspect from an AI standpoint. Multiple aspects and use cases around evidence collection, command and control, fleet tracking and management, simulation across areas. And as you can see, the virtual command and control centers sitting on your office and being able to really monitor everything that's happening in the city on virtual command and control centers, and being able to aid the city planners specifically with HoloLens and tablet kind of solutions to derive the best courses and objectives that they want to solve. I think mixed reality has really brought the combination of AI and visualization put together to solve a lot of city problems. And I think this is really a broader vision from a seamless governance kind of a point of view. As you can see that there are multiple stakeholders on the left and with a multi and omni-channel touch points, including chatbots from an interaction standpoint, and all of that interactions, queries, data is being processed through multiple hybrid infrastructure elements, processed from an analytical point of view, and provided to various agencies, including B2B, B2C, B2G, G2B kind of scenarios, and basically looking at open data and marketplaces kind of initiatives to be creating an entrepreneurial engagements and jobs from a city standpoint, boosting economy. So just an example of how if data strategy being rightly implemented for AI, I think can support the larger citizen and government engagements seamlessly as we go forward. And
like never before, our world is changing. Faced with some of our most critical challenges, human ingenuity triumphs. Today, the Microsoft AI for Good initiative enables a person with an idea to accelerate it, to give it scale, to create change for the better.
Microsoft AI will help our work by empowering people to take action.
Through AI for Earth, photos can now help save a species. With AI for accessibility, the visual world becomes an audible experience.
Sanitarium peanut butter.
And with AI for humanitarian action, first responders can target their efforts faster than ever before.
It feels humbling to know that I'm actually helping another human being.
Today, we are empowering others to forge new paths, to fight famine before a crisis strikes, and protect ecosystems by identifying forests down to a single tree.
We have the forest that we have today. We can't change that. What we can change is the future.
Microsoft AI is fueling some of the most passionate and creative people on our planet, with the help of citizen scientists, to make change, once thought impossible, real.
AI will know and understand and model based on the child interaction.
AI unleashes new possibilities to impact our world. And together, we're not just dreaming it, we're doing it.
And in conclusion, I want to kind of highlight a few areas specifically. I believe a solution of a good AI can really yield good results, provided we have identified what the real problem we are trying to solve. The second issue I would want to talk about is the data is the new oxygen. I think the reason I call it oxygen is because data gets produced every day and consumed every day as well. So common data models, data strategy, classification, and quality of the data, really very, very important aspects when we look at planning our AI initiatives. Cross-agency collaboration, I think instead of looking at silos, looking at cross-vertical analytics and insights to look at specific AI scenarios and the actions and insights coming out of that. Policy, I believe there's a lot of engagement needed specifically to look at the data classification, the data governance strategy policies to come up, looking at cloud first and AI principles. And then looking at human centricity at the core of the AI. I believe those could be really critical points when you look at implementing an AI strategy for any of the use cases within the government.
Thank you very much, for the opportunity to be here. I have the privilege to lead the global smart building and smart places business in the worldwide commercial group at Microsoft. And what I'll do today is I'll building on what Raul just presented, I'll take some of this and just look at spaces themselves, look at buildings, and look at what we can do today, what we should do today with all the buildings that we have and all the space that we have. And before I continue, I think you'll hear me talk a lot about things, places, and people, and that's because when we start talking about smart building or smart spaces, whatever you want it to be, whether it's a commercial building, whether it's a stadium, whether it's a hospital, anything, you truly become smart and intelligent if you can understand what happens with your building assets, how the space is being utilized, and how the people are actually moving throughout the space and how they're using the space. So it's not only about understanding, your equipment. It's really about understanding all these three things and the relationship they have together. And I think, so keep that in mind as I go through the presentation. In terms of why are we even talking about smart places, right? Well, one of the key driver that everybody knows by now is definitely sustainability, right? When we think about pollution, we think about cars, but in reality, buildings are responsible for 40% of emissions, globally. So buildings are major polluters, right? That's, they are number one polluter really as a single category. So getting energy efficient buildings, definitely a key priority on anybody's agenda, anybody that owns any types of buildings. Cost reduction, as we get smarter with machine learning, with AI, how can we reduce costs for things like facilities management and building operations? And then you have, in the commercial space, it's important for people to have a collaborative, modern, engaging place. And it is very important for a lot of organizations because it's important for the next generation of talents, if not the current one, to be in a space that they feel comfortable, safe, of course, in these COVID times, and we'll talk about this. And so that is a very, very high level item in also a smart places agenda. And it has everything to do about attracting and retaining people. In fact, we talk a lot about working remotely and working from home, but most of the people surveyed around the world say that they want to return to the workplace. Right? So how do we make this workplace a better place? And of course, building a brand, whether you're a commercial enterprise or an organization, what kind of vision, what kind of branding you want to give to your buildings? Are they the most sustainable buildings? Are they the most technologically advanced? So this kind of stuff. And so we're going to look at some scenarios here and how we start thinking about a digital twin in that context. So this is a kind of a simple representation with some of the cases, but if we look at the base of the building, imagine that this column is a building, and at the base you'll have all the equipment. And in the middle you'll have how the sort of building operation is happening, and how the space is being used, and at the top you really have personalized experiences for people, and it's really all about that. And if we think about an application of AI, it's going to be across all of this, right? All the way for the space knows me and adapts to me, all the way from the building is smart enough to auto-regulate itself, right? Which is sort of very near future now. So lots of scenarios. We're not going to read all of that. The ones with the stars are the ones that are the most desired by our customers and for which partners are providing solutions. So energy management, again, think sustainability, of course, health as the building is safe, the people inside the building are safe, and everything is done to minimize like COVID spreading as much as possible. Access control is actually also part of that, and finding your way when you talk about big campuses like the one Microsoft has in the US, and we'll talk about that. And everything about productivity, and Raul touched on that, about workplace insights, very, very key, and AI there does play a big role in terms of analyzing how people work together and how we should actually organize people from a physical standpoint so that we maximize the collaboration. So I thought I would just show you a couple use cases because seeing is believing. And while I do that, and I'll talk about digital twin, I want you to think about, if I talk about a building, you can really extend that easily to a number of buildings all the way to a city. Right? A digital twin is something that is meant to scale to a city level, and in fact even beyond. But so even though my presentation is about buildings, just gear your mind towards anything that makes sense in terms of scale. So let's talk about this company called RXR, which is a realty company in the state of New York, and they reacted very, very quickly to the COVID situation, and what they wanted is to provide a solution to make their buildings as safe as possible. And AI had a big role to play. And what they wanted is really to provide an experience for an employee visiting the building, all the way to the person actually managing that building, the property manager, and having a centralized command and control center where they can analyze all the information. So there was a collaboration between many companies, as you can see on the right side. And then, what they did really is a pretty amazing sort of end-to-end experience when you come into one of their buildings. Cameras using AI, like Raul showed you earlier, are monitoring things like, are persons wearing a mask? Are they, is safe distance respected? And also, but the employees are also engaged through their application, right? They can see the state of the building. They can choose where to go that will be safer. And so it's, I think the engagement is really key here. It's really it's not only providing that safety, but it's also engaging people to be sort of part of the solution. So, I'm not going to go through all of that, but it does include a lot of the life of the people around the building, as well as the building itself, of course, with the cleaning and all the building operations and all the facilities management. But what was really interesting is that, it was an end-to-end solution. And for them, it was really about, how could they, use the vast amount of data coming from the cameras and use AI to just analyze and provide them with recommendation or alerts and all this. And they chose to do all of the AI on the edge using Azure Stack Edge. For them, that really was a game changer, right? Just because there was, very, very low latency, and they were able to get real-time information and transmission to people and the building operators. So, the edge computing here, and I think in a lot of spaces and buildings, you will see AI on the edge increasing significantly. And with the use of specialized AI cameras or things like Azure Stack Edge. So I think the role of AI on the edge here, as an example, I think we'll see a lot more of that. And then they used, another part of AI, which is, analyzing video feeds post-recording and getting insights from that. So that's also was a it's a big game changer versus having a human having to go through video and it just doesn't scale. So I thought that was a great example for the use of AI here in the building. Now, a lot of talk around these days are around digital twin, which is essentially how do you take a physical space and make it a sort of digital representation of it. And again, not just a 3D model, but all the things in the buildings are represented. All the IoT data that's transacted is actually analyzed. All the space utilization is captured, and all the people movement and interaction is captured. So, I would say that until only recently, we have the technology to do this. Like in the 90s, you had digital twin of an engine, for instance, like an airplane engine or a car, and that was already like sort of an accomplishment. But here, if you think about the complexity, because you're actually building a graph of all the relationships that exist, right? So when I go to the office in Singapore, I have a relationship with the places I visit. I have a relationship with the people I work with. I have a relationship with all the devices that are interacting with me, whether it's fixed IoT sensors, whether it's my computer and all this. So it gets very complex. And for that, we need, sort of a standardization of all this data, right? And then so recently we released a service on Azure called, Azure Digital Twins, which purpose is really to standardize all this data. And I think that's very, very important first step. And one of the first example that we have is one of the biggest property developer in the world, Brookfield, who's based out of Canada, which has, I think, close to 2,000 buildings. So I'll see if I can play like a very short video of Brookfield.
Brookfield Properties is the largest commercial office landlord in New York City and in the world. And with that, we feel comes a responsibility.
One of the challenges that's always existed in the real estate business is that every
we'll just have it without the sound, and you can
is
see what
unique. It's unique in location, it's unique in the elements that make it up, and also all of the equipment that makes it run.
So we were looking for something that would allow us to read and synthesize all this information.
You can hear the video and then
3
you were
years
talking
ago,
on
we
top.
met Willow.
Oh, sorry.
And we were
Yeah, it's me
fascinated
not hearing
by
it. Okay,
the
I'll just be quiet.
prospect of finally being able to combine all of the architectural plans and engineering drawings and the equipment specifications of all that goes into creating a state-of-the-art building like One Manhattan West.
I think Microsoft has been groundbreakers in this field, and we wanted to be part of that.
The ability to create this much value at the scale of a real estate portfolio is really only possible because of Azure Digital Twins. The Microsoft Azure stack, specifically the Azure Digital Twins platform, was a natural fit for Willow to build on top of.
Willow Twin is a digital replica of exactly what the building is made up of.
All the security, scalability, cloud, AI technologies that Willow leverages inside of the Willow Twin are a fundamental component inside of the Azure Digital Twin stack.
It's comprised of the architectural drawings, the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems,
the building automation system, occupancy, sensor networks,
all of the equipment that goes into the building. There's over 40,000 data points.
And we can look at all of these systems together in real time and understand how one is affecting the other and respond to that. I believe the Digital Twin platform has great potential here to allow us to understand how people use our places and how they enjoy our places and how to improve on that.
What Willow is doing is taking the Azure Digital Twins ontology, which can apply to any industry, any application around the world, and we are fitting that ontology to the built environment. This is one building, but when we add buildings across the Brookfield portfolio, we can then look at things through a portfolio lens. We can understand macro trends in terms of how different buildings are performing against different service providers in different geographies, against different asset classes, and to have this common data ontology that's amongst all these different asset classes is a world's first.
And so we believe that through investment in infrastructure, investment in real estate, and as placemaking and activation of properties like that has evolved, we have an opportunity to raise the quality of life, the standard of living for the people who live there.
So by working closely with Microsoft and the Azure Digital Twins team, Willow and Microsoft are breaking down new barriers that are going to start in commercial real estate, but then move forward into other sectors, and we're already seeing that take place.
What we're doing with Brookfield, and it really truly is a world's first. And then think about this and start scaling it to tens of buildings and hundreds of buildings, and then at a city level, right? And you start having an amazing understanding of what's happening in that space, however big it is. Now you can imagine that the role of AI is going to be absolutely critical. A building like Manhattan West, if I compare it to another project we did in the Middle East with Intel, that building currently generates 30 petabytes of data per day. So no human is going to sift through that data. And clearly, it's going to be all an AI affair to go and understand, not only what happens in the building and be able to act on it, that we can already do, but also over time, how can you improve things? So I think it's a massive opportunity to do this. And if you look at this, it's a little bit, an eyesore here, but what a digital twin does at the center is really to take all the siloed data from a lot of different systems and make it, a consistent format in which you can start then, connecting all your applications. And that model can apply to anything, right? From the building again to campus to a city, especially when you have existing and you have existing siloed system in place. And how do you federate all of this without having to change the equipment? And in fact, that I will talk a little bit about the Microsoft example in a moment, but breaking down the silos and accelerating that digital representation, that's a digital twin's primary value is really to get to a point where you can start modeling things, predicting things. We built an example with Microsoft where you can actually simulate an evacuation using AI. Any one of us that's been working in a building have had these evacuation drills, and you see people walking with their mug of tea, and then nobody is really in any sort of panic. So it doesn't really give you a great idea of what a real evacuation looks like. So instead of doing this, we can start modeling in a digital twin. And if you start doing changes to the building, what kind of impact it's going to have, and you can also start modeling this. One of the most interesting thing I found is, if you have a commercial building and you have a space, about every 5 years, you can go to an architect and remodel, right? And then usually companies will remodel based on suggestions, but it's never been done based on data. Today, when you have all the data about how the space is utilized, you don't have to wait for 5 years. You can build the word escapes me, kind of dynamic space when you can actually modular is what I'm looking for, modular space that you can adjust based on the data. Do I have enough meeting rooms? Do I have too many big meeting rooms? Do I need more of this type of, cubicles where people can have phone calls, all that kind of things. So it really changes the game in terms of, how you make the space evolve. And so, a great example on why even Microsoft is in all of that, right? And in 2002, we started Project 88 Acres, which, by the way, is a bit of a mystery name because it really isn't significant of the size of the campus. But we looked at all 125 buildings that are in the Seattle area, and think about, okay, how can we reduce energy consumption, right? So option number one is sort of the first one that comes to mind. Let's modernize all the equipment. Right? Let's put IoT sensors everywhere. Let's build new equipment. Some of the equipment was like 30, some less than 40 years old. From the very beginning of Microsoft. The other option was, well, can we communicate with all the equipment in whatever format they are? Can we get this data? Can we just aggregate it? Can we put it in a format that we can understand? Can we start feeding it to machine learning models and start to understand what's going on in these buildings? So I mean, you can imagine that we went with number two, otherwise I wouldn't be talking about this. And to give you an idea, there was a lot of devices. That was 34,000 pieces of equipment, right? This is a big campus. And so as of today, we are still gathering over 50 million transactions a day to the database. And we have about 3,000 machine learning models that are running constantly to analyze what's happening in the building and determine whether or not there is a serious problem, or if it's a problem that can be handled remotely, right? And so this fits directly into a smart facilities management system, where really we're gonna only dispatch the people when we need it. And that was a key game changer too, right? Because beforehand you would send a technician and maybe he didn't have the right part, and maybe it wasn't even a serious problem. So today, about half of the issues that are surfaced in the command and control center are just resolved remotely, and it only takes a few seconds to fix them. And the rest is assigned using a very smart model to the right technicians based on their real-time location and their competencies. And that model, I think, to me is really important. Is, you know, it took less than 2 years to have a return on investment. And today, and then I mean, at year 2, we started saving, you know, anywhere from 20 to 25% of our energy consumption on the campus. And today, it's still, of course, it's still true. If we had gone with option number 1, it was a $56 million investment. You know, the software solution deployed, if I recall, was something like, you know, 3 million in the neighborhood. But, you know, the impact on sustainability is massive, right? And that's something that, you know, customers now come, or used to come before COVID, to the campus, look at this and say, well, I want to do the same thing. So JTC here in Singapore, which is a major government entity and one of the biggest builders, really deployed practically the same solution, right? And so the same level of energy reduction. So, you know, to me, if you think about, you know, if I have to say one thing about, you know, smart buildings, it's like, go get, you know, your energy fixed and go, you know, lower your energy bill. It's really is a no-brainer. But we're not stopping. We're actually now modernizing part of the campus. So what you see here is actually a model of what's coming up in 2023 or 4, depending on whether it's going to be on schedule. And so we demolished part of the very old campus and building a new one. And it's a big project. And you know, energy is also, of course, front and center, but a lot of the experiences and sustainability is in everything, you know, from the construction all the way to the, you know, building life cycle. You can see here 95% of the demolition waste is recycled, and those kind of things are important. And to give you an idea, you know, this is 17 buildings, and this is 75,000 IoT devices. Right? So when you think about where machine learning and AI and deep learning sits, but there, it's easy to see that it's absolutely necessary as we move forward. But you know, Microsoft is a sort of a big real estate owner. Like we have about, well, we own about 400 buildings worldwide, and we lease about 400 buildings. So overall 800 buildings in which we're trying to deploy people experiences consistently across. And the Redmond campus, you can think of it as a small city. 58,000 people work there. So yeah, we want it to be, you know, the most connected, accessible, and sustainable and secure. And most of all, we want to push the limits. You know, we want to try things and help these solutions being deployed everywhere for, you know, customers and partners that want them. So we talk about complete experiences. I mean, there's a lot. They are not exhaustive. There's a lot of things you can do in a smart space, but you can see that is a lot is centered around people. You know, it's people and it's operations. Even in the operations, it's also people-centric. You know, AI is helping technicians to diagnose equipment remotely. So you have an expert that is actually directing more junior technicians. The expert is sitting somewhere and just having a video call where he can see what the technician sees in the field and make recommendation on how to fix things. You know, it's really it's a really exciting space. You know, and whether you think about employees or citizens, you know, a lot of this can be applied, right? It's not only for commercial spaces. And, you know, exciting too is we do have a ton of partners that are adopting, you know, our thinking and model here. Some of these names you recognize, and actually it's just a small list. And on the top right, you know, Axelion will present to you right after me and on very, very exciting things that they do. So, you know, it's great to see this this big ecosystem moving and moving at scale. So I think I'm on time. Thank you.
So greetings from Israel. My name is Oran Dror, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Axelion Smart Mobility. We are an AI company that builds mobility digital twin on Azure. We are a public company traded on the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange, and we've been working closely with Microsoft. Thank you very much for hosting us today. As you probably know, the relationship between Israel and India is strengthening with the visit of Mr. Modi to Israel with Benjamin Netanyahu, and also a lot of collaboration between Israel and India around collaboration on technology and innovation. I want to start with a quick video to showcase our digital twin with Microsoft.
Imagine a driving experience that flows seamlessly. Imagine enjoying greater safety, less congestion, and a public transit you can actually count on. That can be the future of your city with Exilian's smart mobility platform. A cost-effective solution that helps today's cities take control of their mobility challenges. Like video data that flows from IoT cameras across your city to a robust cloud infrastructure by Microsoft Azure. Data is analyzed automatically to create a digital twin of your city. Using reinforcement learning AI model, Exilian generates real-time traffic insights and optimized traffic plans. Traffic engineers receive an identical digital model of their cities, allowing them to plan, test, and optimize for different solutions. It's time to see your city from the driver's perspective. Receive live notifications on traffic issues and their root causes. Plan and test different solutions with a digital twin model. Execute in real life and restore harmony to your city. Make mobility smarter with Exilion.
So together with Microsoft and our AI, we developed Exilion Edge Camera. Here, this is the size of the camera. We mount the cameras on buses, on city vehicles, and they use as prop data to calibrate a mobility digital twin. And then through an ongoing basis, we are able to reduce traffic flow and congestion by as much as 25 to 40%. Will dramatically reduce carbon footprint in cities and increase the safety of pedestrians, cyclists, two-wheelers, and mobility users, and providing a very clear ROI to cities. These are two examples that we've implemented our platform throughout the entire city of Jerusalem. So if you would be able to travel to Jerusalem, hopefully very soon with the pandemic, you will find that public transit is getting 100% priority. So we were able to reduce travel time of trams throughout the city by 47%, reduce the fleet of the tram, and adhere a consistent 5-minute headway throughout the travel of tram in the capital of Israel. The city experienced a jump of about 400% in riders on the light rail, from 40,000 passengers every day to over 160,000 and 200,000 at peak time. Mostly these were tourists before the pandemic started. According to the mayor of Jerusalem, we are reducing about 100,000 tons of carbon footprint every year from public transportation, as people are leaving their cars at home and are moving to the tram. We also implemented our solution in hundreds of traffic lights in the city of Haifa. We're able to reduce travel time by as much as 20% for buses across the metropolitan, increase the bus speed by 30%, adhere a consistent 5-minute headway. In a few months, the number of passengers on buses jumped by 90%. And according to the mayor of the city, we are able to reduce 140,000 tons of carbon footprint from transportation pollution every year. So the way we manage is not through a very complex LiDARs or radars put on vehicles. All we do is we mount 20, 50, 100, 200, 1,000 Azure IoT cameras on the city vehicles that are going around the city. These vehicles are calibrating a mobility digital twin, and we digitize your entire city, as Rahul mentioned earlier and Guillemot later on. There is a need to digitize the city, the real world, and create a replica on Azure Cloud. So the cameras are going around the city and they can say, this is a pedestrian, this is a car, that's the traffic light. And we train the AI networks to understand many things. So understand people traveling, people walking on crosswalk, people getting stuck on refugee island in the middle of the road, people waiting in the bus, in the bus stops, or even two-wheelers. And it takes us no more than 1 month to build an initial digital twin on the Azure tenant of the city. So we have 3 services: X-Ray Pulse for monitoring the city, X-Ray Twin for simulating the digital twin and optimizing the traffic lights in the simulation, and then deploying new time plans to the traffic light. And then the following day, the cameras are coming again and calibrating the digital twin. Let me show you quickly. This is an example of Tel Aviv. I don't know if you've been to Tel Aviv, but this is an example of the mobility digital twin that we created for Tel Aviv. It took us 1 month to build the initial digital twin. So here we can see all the micromobility, pedestrian density across the city, scooter density, cyclist density, and we can view morning rush hour, we can view midday, we can view evening, and analyze the entire city in real time, and also looking at history for an entire city, metropolitan, or even state. We scale on Azure. Then we can identify, and I will show some examples of how we understand the bus routes and how the performance of the buses is happening with speeds, and so also for private cars. So let me show you an example in Tel Aviv. So if I click on the pedestrian density here, the AI cut automatically from a 14-hour video on the bus, it cut 11 frames. Now the camera understands that the light is green. You see the light is green, I'm driving, and we start to identify cars. Of course, we anonymize on the edge facials and also a license plate. And so as the camera is moving, we are constantly doing traffic counts. So we can count a two-wheeler. So I don't know if you can see here, but this is a two-wheeler colored with yellow, pedestrian colored with green, motorcycle colored with blue. So the cameras are going around the city constantly doing traffic counts, pedestrian counts, and we're looking at behaviors that are repeated. So this is a midday on every day. We can see a video from this intersection, and the AI analyzes it, calibrates a digital twin. Eventually, we generate a new time plan to the traffic light that goes in the night, and then in the morning, we calibrate again. Here you see a bicycle colored with orange, and you see a cyclist detection. So we analyze for you all the pedestrians in the areas where the camera is going, all the scooters, so you can see different times of day where the two-wheelers are going, all through cameras. I was asked by one of our potential Indian counterparts to be able to identify a cow. We can also identify cows through the AI. We trained our AI with our team. We have over 15 people who are training AI and are training the AI to understand this is a motorcycle, this is a person. We can even tell you if these people wear face masks or they don't wear face masks. We train the AI to learn face masks. So you see this person doesn't have a face mask one. So you can see different density of pedestrians and whether they're wearing face masks, yes or no. We also analyze all the performance of the entire buses in the city or the metropolitan in terms of signal progression, queue time, queue length, speeds of all the buses, because it's not just the camera. The camera has a GPS and modem built into the camera, and then we communicate with Azure Cloud every second, a few frames. Here you can see The probability for the bus to stop at this section is 43%, at this section 55%, at this section 83%. I click on it and the AI automatically cuts 92 frames, and here I can see the video of how the bus got stopped at the dedicated bus lane. This was December 4th at 2 p.m. And this is a repeated case on December 4th, December 11, December 18, and here the same intersection. Every time the bus gets red at 2:30. Eventually, through the calibration of the digital twin, we are able to change the traffic lights to solve these problems. Also, you can see here red, right? Because the traffic light is red. So this is this camera utilizes Azure Batch, Azure IoT, Azure Edge to ensure data residency, cybersecurity, and full compliance with the privacy rules. We can also tell you about the performance of your fleet, the dwell times in station. So here you can see the dwell time is 18 seconds. Here it's 25 seconds. You click and the AI cut for you 38 frames of the situation, and the people waiting at the bus stop, and analysis and counting how many people are waiting at every bus stop with all videos. Also passenger density. Where are the people waiting for buses in the entire metropolitan, and we can change the route of the buses to take the people from each and every area, and we count everything. Pedestrian, cyclists, scooters, two-wheelers, and we train the AI with our team to count whatever the city decides. We also analyze speed. So we give you speed data of your entire city at every time of day, whether it's morning, rush hour, evening rush hour, because the cameras are constantly going around the city, and they will tell you what is the average speed. So here, average speed, for example, is 14 kilometers per hour on a 60 kilometer per hour speed. Here, 10 kilometers, and you click on it, you get the video that shows why the speed is so slow. Everything is analyzed by AI. Here we are running over 15 different AI networks, video networks, reinforcement learning AI, simulation AI. There are many AI networks that we are developing and that are analyzing this data for a city, a metropolitan, and even an entire state. We also monitor the pollution. We connect with the pollution sensors of the city, and we can tell you what is the pollution level from transportation at every part of the city, and how the solution was able to reduce the pollution in every part of the city if there are sensors. So we can also monitor the performance of the traffic lights and the improved in the mobility digital twin, and what was the impact of that on the city. So all you need to do, it's very simple. Our software is part of Microsoft Azure Marketplace. You can buy our solution as part of your contract with Microsoft. It's Azure Marketplace services, X-Ray Pulse, X-Ray Twin, X-Ray Neural. And just to mention that last year, Axelion was awarded finalist Partner of the Year in AI and Machine Learning. And you can also easily acquire our solution through your existing Microsoft contract or contact on the Azure Marketplace. So it's relatively easy to procure through your existing Microsoft contract. All we need to do is send cameras, maybe it's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 cameras, and in about 1 month, we are able to build an initial mobility digital twin. Just to share, so most of our team members are AI experts, are AI experts based out of Israel. We have partnership with the academia. We are looking forward to establish a partnership of AI Center of Excellence in India as well. And most of the people that work for us are either PhD or a master degree in computer. And our focus is really around computer vision, reinforcement learning, cloud, and scalability. Finally, we are, thanks to the support of Microsoft, we built the company in the last couple of years. We became a public company on the Israeli Stock Exchange, part of the Tel Aviv 125 index. Together with Microsoft, we partner with the academia, such as the Technion Institute of Technology and the Tel Aviv University. And we will be delighted to work together with you and Microsoft to explore quick pilots around mobility digital twin.
We have a full-fledged team who supports a lot of such initiatives across education sectors. We'll be more than happy to facilitate such kind of learning sessions for our engineering students and colleges to talk about more and more AI interventions. This question completely from similar to ITIL context, but just to kind of summarize, yes, there are multiple government departments who have actually incorporated AI strategies from a decision-making standpoint. In fact, I know a couple of governments who are now looking at implementing decision and support and advice platforms for them to really kind of be suggested with the best course of actions for a given situation. And this is basically using a lot of enterprise data, which is not just social, but across enterprise being used. So I think there are examples around that. But I think over a period of, short I mean, it could be any kind of identification specifically, right from pixel patterns to specific combination of structure of characters. I think it depends. The anomaly will basically depend on how good the rule basis we are able to define as a part of the training model that we would.
If I look at the examples that we had, and I'm thinking particularly the example of our own campus or JTC here in Singapore. What happened is, if you think about facility management and building repair and those kind of things, first, it's very difficult to attract talent there. Like these industries have been struggling to actually add people because it's not very attractive to go be a lift technician or a building maintenance person. So they struggle to attract talent. What AI and technology overall does in IoT is that these jobs are transforming, right? And at JTC, there was a great example of this gentleman who had been a lift technician at JTC for something like close to 20 years, right? And when we deployed the solution, the smart energy solution, he became the person who's actually monitoring from the control center what is happening with all the lifts in all the building. And his role shifted from a very manual type job to a very technology-centric job. And I think you will see the industry actually promoting this type of jobs. And those jobs now become much more attractive, right? When you actually are part of a solution that uses technology, I think you can apply a lot of the things that you've learned. And suddenly, if you look at the building intelligence today, it's still somewhat traditional. Like it's a lot of it is sort of, there's a lot of machine learning models that are written per type of equipment. For instance, there is models for air conditioners and all of that. The way I think it's moving forward with AI is, and by the way, one of the challenges today is it takes time. It takes time to take a building, onboard a building, and make it a smart building. just because you need to understand so much of what the equipment is, how it communicates, what it does. Where AI starts to play a role, and as actually we're testing this right now at Microsoft using that Azure Stack Edge, is we have AI model running on an edge device, which is pretty much it's a big computer that's running those models, and it does all the building discovery automatically, and it's able to say, this is that type of equipment, and it's how it operates, and this is a normal parameter, and it detects all the equipment and makes them connected to the building management system. So it does all the discovery, right? It does all the discovery.
When the cameras are going around the city, we can tell you where are the areas where people are not wearing face masks. And you can send enforcement and instructors to show you see face mask usage low. And here in every picture, you can see 2 people not wearing face masks, 1 people. So you can send enforcement. You can also see if people taking the bus are putting the face mask on or not. So here we track, it's image by image by image. We train the AI to understand whether people wearing face masks or no in different. Yes. So this is a video of how we manage the entire traffic network of the capital of Israel, Jerusalem. We provide emergency services priority, tram priority, bus priority, and everything is managed sort of a brain of the city. There are 273 traffic signals throughout the capital, and they are all managed with AI synchronized. So we synchronize green, first of all, green for pedestrians to safely get on and off the trams and buses. Then we give priority to the tram. So whenever the tram is approaching the intersection, it is served with green. We then also provide green to buses. So in the bus rapid transit or dedicated bus lane, we optimize the traffic light in real time with AI. As I shared, Jerusalem increased the jump of 400% in people taking public transportation rather than taking their private cars. And through the AI, they adhere a consistent 6-minute headway. So the answer is yes. The trams, emergency services, buses. Here, this is another. Yes. So this is a video of how we manage the entire traffic network of the capital of Israel, Jerusalem. We provide emergency services priority, tram priority, bus priority, and everything is managed sort of a brain of the city. There are 273 traffic signals throughout the capital, and they are all managed with AI synchronized. So we synchronize green, first of all, green for pedestrians to safely get on and off the trams and buses. Then we give priority to the tram. So whenever the tram is approaching the intersection, it is served with green. We then also provide green to buses. So in the bus rapid transit or dedicated bus lane, we optimize the traffic light in real time with AI. As I shared, Jerusalem increased the jump of 400% in people taking public transportation rather than taking their private cars. And through the AI, they adhere a consistent 6-minute headway. So the answer is yes. The trams, emergency services, buses. Here, this is another. Yes, there is an app called Move It. And the Move It app is tracking the buses, their locations, and they can know which number is coming when. Got it. But we are more around the infrastructure, so the enabling infrastructure of the city with the traffic lights, to give the green light and the messaging, and also on the bus stop. So on the bus stop, there are signs with all the information of all the bus that is coming.